just to let everyone know, we're running a little behind, and so probably start in about 15 minutes or so. But so feel free to chat with someone while you're waiting and make yourself comfortable. There is snacks and drinks out there, and we'll get going when we get going.
In the darkness we were waiting, without hope, without light. You from heaven, you came running. There was mercy in your eyes. To fulfill the law and prophets, to a virgin came the word. From a throne of endless glory, to a cradle in the dirt. Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of peace, when fears are stilled, when striving cease. My comforter, my all in all, here in the love of Christ I stand. In Christ alone, who took on flesh, fullness of God in helpless babe, this gift of love and righteousness, scorned by the ones he came to save, till on that cross as Jesus died, the wrath of God was satisfied. For every sin on him was laid. Here in the death of Christ I live. There in the ground his body lay, light of the world by darkness slain, then bursting forth in glorious day, up from the grave he rose again, and as he stands in victory, sin's curse has lost its grip on me, for I am his, and he is mine, bought with the precious blood of Christ. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All the ground is sinking sand. All the ground is sinking sand. On Christ the solid rock I stand. All the ground is sinking sand. All the ground is sinking sand. No guilt in life, no fear in death. This is the power of Christ in me. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from his hand, till he returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ I'll stand.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Johnny Burke, and I'd like to welcome you to New Beginnings Wesleyan Church. We're honored and privileged to be able to hold this service for the family. For those of you that have joined us online, thank you for being patient, and hopefully the audio quality is good. If any of you would like to share this with anyone or watch it in the future, we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, and those videos will be available afterwards at any time too. Just want to ask you to just take a breath right now as we begin in a very sad day and a very difficult day. I want to give you the freedom to be able to process through the emotions as they hit, and they will hit in waves. And so as we enter into this, I'd just like to pray to start us off this morning, and then we'll begin. Lord, I ask for your peace and calm this afternoon, Lord, as we gather to remember Keith and to celebrate his life. Lord, will you massage each heart that is hurting right now, Lord? Will you comfort each soul that is mourning and suffering right now? Lord, will you bless this time ahead? Will you give us the good memories and the happy times? Will you give us smiles and cheerful laughter and good times with family and friends? We ask, Lord, that you would do something special during this time to help us remember Keith's legacy and who he was and be able to celebrate his life and the time that we've got to spend with him. Lord, we ask that you would bless this time ahead in your name. Amen. Well, I mentioned it already, but we've gathered to mourn and the passing and to celebrate the life of Keith Brown. And we've come together to grieve and give thanks for his life. And for the next moments, we will likely cry and laugh almost simultaneously. And as human beings, we are the only creatures gifted to feel such a range of emotions all at the same time. And it's good that we can do it together. Whenever someone passes away, those of us who remain behind enter a space in time that is quite out of the ordinary. With the death of someone that we've known and loved, something in each one of us dies a little too. And we're reminded of the frailties and the gifts of our relationships. We become more aware that we live in fragile human bodies. We may come to know a heightened consciousness of what is precious and what is true. Indeed, with the passing of a loved one, we encounter our own mortality. Keith Earl Brown was born November 30th, 1993 in Yuba City, California. He was born to Evelyn Aline Norris and Kevin Earl Brown. He has one older sister, Amanda Robinson, and two younger sisters, Samantha Brown and Sarah Childers. He was 31 years old at the time of his unexpected passing on January 30th, 2025 in Yuba City, California, where he lived most of his life. Keith attended elementary school in Sutter, Beale Air Force Base, Linda, and Wheatland before entering Sutter High School. He graduated from Feather River Academy. He is survived by his mother and father, his three sisters, his son Levi, his grandmothers, a grandfather, his niece and nephews, and many aunts and uncles and cousins. Some of Keith's passions included skating, motorcycle riding, and listening to all music. This isn't our normal setup for Sunday mornings, in case you hadn't gathered that already. Overall, he simply enjoyed spending quality time with those he loved, and he was always up for an adventure. He lived life to the fullest and had the best sense of humor in all circumstances. Keith was a tree trimmer by trade, often climbing 100 feet or more, and enjoyed teaching others. He was a protector by nature, being the only brother, and was always there for you if you needed him, even if it was just to listen. Keith's life was short, but still such a full life. He traveled, experienced, and embraced the world around him, and he will be forever deeply missed. I'm told that Keith was often found on a ladder or climbing trees, whether by profession or for enjoyment. And today I'd like for us to look at two passages that involve ladders and climbing. And they're two passages normally you wouldn't link together, but since we're talking about Keith, that's why we're going to look at them this afternoon. One of them's in the Old Testament, one of them's in the New Testament, so we're covering the whole Bible, and you can tell your friends you were everywhere in the Bible today when you go home, okay? But I've been told Keith was not a church-going guy, but that he believed in God and was very curious. And he reminds me of another very curious Bible figure, a guy named Jacob. Jacob lived quite a spectacular life, and God would often reveal different things to him. And if you're curious about his life, you just have to look at the first book of the Bible, Genesis, and you'll learn all about his story and some of the crazy and wild things he did and some of the bad ideas he had. But God would often reveal different things to him. And one time in a dream, God showed him something very amazing. And I'd like to share that story this morning. It's in Genesis chapter 28. We'll look at verses 10 through 15. Meanwhile, Jacob left Beersheba and traveled toward Haran. And some of you are like, the word beer is in the Bible? Yes, it is. It's the name of a city, Beersheba. Traveled toward Haran. At sundown, he arrived at a good place to set up camp and stopped there for the night. Jacob found a stone to rest his head against and lay down to sleep. As he slept, he dreamed of a stairway that reached from earth up to heaven, and he saw the angels of God going up and down the stairway. At the top of the stairway stood the Lord, and he said, I am the Lord, the God of your grandfather Abraham and the God of your father Isaac. The ground you are lying on belongs to you. I'm giving it to you and your descendants. Your descendants will be numerous as the dust of the earth. They will spread out in all directions, to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. And all the families of earth will be blessed through you and your descendants. What's more, I am with you, and I will protect you wherever you go. One day I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have finished giving you everything I have promised you. And this is a small part of Jacob's story and what God would do through his life. And as he was obedient to God, God would bless him and he would have those numerous descendants. But this particular passage, the word that is read stairway here, sometimes translated as stairway and sometimes it's translated as ladder. And you may have heard the term Jacob's ladder before. And the premise here is very simple of what God showed Jacob in that moment. God is at the top of the ladder and we're here down below. But even though we're separated, God's made a way for us, and he's connected us to him. God is watching us. He tells Jacob that he's close to him, and furthermore, he wants to bless him and his descendants, and that's the same for each and every one of us here today. One of the greatest lessons from that is that God is not unreachable. You may feel like there's a distance between you and the Lord. It may feel like something you can't overcome on your own. But he's made a way, and he showed this way to Jacob by presenting this stairway or this ladder so that he could easily be climbed up to and be close to. Our God is not unreachable, and the climb to him is well worth it. The other story, probably the most famous tree climber guy of all time, especially that you'll find in the Bible, is a guy named Zacchaeus. And I'm just curious, anybody here grow up in Sunday school singing, Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. He climbed up in a sycamore tree for the Lord he wanted to see. Anybody ever heard that song before? Yeah, I never sung it either, but I was just curious if any of you had. It's a popular one among Sunday school, and it's about the story of this guy named Zacchaeus and what he did to meet Jesus. And it comes from this passage that we find in Luke chapter 19, verses 1 through 10. Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region, and he had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. He has gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I've cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, Salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who were lost. We never hear about Zacchaeus again. It's the only time he's mentioned in the Bible. And we teach kids to sing about how he's a wee little man, which I think is a real discredit to his nature just because he was a little short. He climbed that tree. Zacchaeus desired to do whatever it took to see Jesus. And that should be inspiring to us, regardless of how short or tall we are. For us, all we need to do is look to his word, which we can find in pretty much any thrift store, dollar store, or house. Bibles are readily available anywhere. churches abound in our area that share the good news about Jesus, but Zacchaeus had to make this extraordinary effort, and he wasn't a good guy. And maybe some of you can relate to that this morning. Maybe some of you can't. But he was a tax collector, and we don't think about that necessarily in our society as being a bad guy. Just kidding. We definitely think of that as being a bad guy, right? Somebody tells you for the IRS, you don't get very excited. That's probably true. But in that time with tax collectors, they really would take advantage of people because they had the power. You had to pay whatever they told you to. And Zacchaeus makes this statement to Jesus. He says, if I've cheated anybody, it wasn't an if, it was a I have cheated people, and I need to make up for it. And in that moment, Zacchaeus was repenting of his sins and turning to Jesus. And then Jesus said, you know what? I'm going to come in there and we're going to eat together. He was at his house, and because of Zacchaeus' repentance and his belief and trust in Jesus, Zacchaeus was saved on that day. That's why Jesus says salvation has come. It's the same story for each and every one of us, regardless of our past, the things that we've done decades ago, days ago, hours ago. What's important is that if we turn to Jesus and turn from our sins and believe in him, then we too will be saved. Just like Jesus made a way and showed Jacob that he's there and we can reach him. He showed Zacchaeus the same thing, and Zacchaeus had to put out a little bit more effort. For us, there's no tree climbing needed. Some of you are bummed out because there's a lot of tree trimmers here today, I know, right? And you feel like you're closer to God. There's something about getting up in that tree, breathing the air, looking over and seeing and feeling closer to God. I believe that Keith felt this almost every day of his life, especially in his professional career. And so we're here to celebrate his memory today and then reflect on the fact of who God is and what he can do in our life as well. I'm going to invite his sisters forward right now, and they're going to share some memories. And then after they've said what they would like to share, they'll open it up for friends too. And just a reminder that when you come up and you speak in there, make sure you speak in the microphone. This is recorded, and so anybody can use that as evidence in any trial. So it's a good reminder to let people know ahead of time, but I'm going to invite the sisters up here, and they're going to...
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Amanda, Keith's older sister.
Is your boy blue?
Writing things like this is never easy, so I'll do my best. My little brother was a lot of things to a lot of people. Everywhere he went, he made an impact. With his big smile, his big heart, and his silly, down-to-earth personality, he never met a stranger. He was usually the life of the party, even if it was a child's party. He would be the one to suggest the candles that were difficult to blow out and putting on the game, and he always brought the 805. Keith often found humor in every situation. Good or bad, you were going to crack a smile, mostly because he was so good at telling hilarious stories that even the most boring and average story made you feel like you were witnessing a stand-up comedy routine. His facial expressions were side-splitting, and his catchphrases were on point. Many of us know them. Okay. I wanted to say my brother was fearless, but he wasn't. He was fear-conquering. He would be scared to death and do it anyways. He was the smallest third grader on the basketball team. He learned to backflip down a set of stairs. He literally backflipped off of cliffs into water. He climbed 200-foot trees, moved to states with nothing but a backpack of clothes. And he loved hard, even when he knew it wouldn't end very well. He wasn't the type to let fear stop him, even when maybe it should have. He was definitely accident-prone. I remember him telling me he was going to get a Harley, and I thought, well, you don't do well on 4 wheels. Sure, you'd get one with 2. That was just Keith. He was always seeking adventure and fun. Keith was my little brother, but I really looked up to him when it came to certain things. He was always the funniest and most outgoing guy in the room. Even as a kid, he would always make fun. Even as a kid, he would always make friends with the cool kids, the high schoolers, the skaters, the fun crowd. He had a contagious spirit, and I knew that's why everyone was so drawn to him. And I was a much more cautious older sister. He would always drag me along to get me out of my comfort zone. He would say, "Amanda, stop caring so much, just come have fun." And we would. We always did. I admired the way he could make a boring day an unforgettable memory. Keith was always there if we needed him, if anyone needed him. Whether we were angry at each other or not, he was always there, even if it was just a talk. And in a way, I feel like he's still here for us in spirit, through stories and memories, pictures and videos. Keith's presence will always be here, and it's something I promise to keep alive for myself and others. With that said, when you listen to some screamo, I hope you think of him. And when you see tall trees in the sunset, I hope you think of him. And when you see a motorcycle on the road, I hope you wave. And when you're afraid to get out of your comfort zone, I really hope you think of Keith and the way he would always jump in with both feet. Live your life to the fullest and be kind of a big deal. Thank you. Where's your first page?
I don't know. Well, I got it on my phone too. We're good, guys. That's not mine. Hold on. This is fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
This is fine. So, hello. I'm Keith's little sister, Sam. I wanted to come up here and tell you a little bit about my brother. Keith's life was full of life. Not many people in 31 years get to say they lived as many times as he did. Keith was always looking for the next adventure, from climbing on top of Grandma's roof at the age of 2, to skateboarding and riding motorcycles, hiking mountains, climbing trees, being a vocalist in a Screamo garage band where he stole my bright blue skinny jeans for. He moved states and visited many others. This brother of ours did it all. Keith was the poster child of living your best life. And in return, he dragged most of us into sometimes sketchy, but unbelievably good times. One of my favorite memories with Keith was when he first got his bike. He finally said he'll take me on it after about a week. I was ecstatic. I put on his jacket and his helmet, and we went around the block where I was holding on with a death grip from hell. And he was laughing. After turning the corner, he revved it up just enough to pop a wheelie. I stayed on because the alternative would have hurt. When he finally plopped it back down, he just turned to me and said, "Don't tell Mom." We finished our very slow cruise back home after that, and I got back on that bike many times to go to the store and go to the buttes at the speed limit, of course. Sure. He taught me as much as I wanted to know about motorcycles, and I understood his obsession. It's in these stories I find comfort and happiness, in these types of memories. I'm sure every person in this room has. It's the type of memories worth sharing and a life worth celebrating because Keith really lived. A person is never truly gone until he stops speaking his name. And he's gonna live on forever because he was kind of a big deal.
I know there's others that want to speak too, and so kind of opening up the floor a little bit.
That's up to you. I got it. Sure. You can sit down. I'm just kidding.
Do you want me here or not?
It's up to you.
Trying to be moral support.
Go sit down. You'll make me cry. If you don't know me, I'm Rowdy. I'm Amanda's husband, Keith's brother. He's the only little brother I ever had. Keith was a man who lived life like it was his own personal skate park. Fast, fearless, and always pushing the limits. He was the funniest guy in the room, effortlessly charismatic. I screwed up like 5 times last night. And somehow, no matter how much trouble he found, he always had a way of skating right out of it. Keith was an idiot. But he was our idiot. I'm really glad I got to have lunch with Malachi and Matt yesterday. We sat, we talked, we told stories. And funny enough, they're all pretty much similar. We all went through the same things with Keith. We all agreed on one thing. Keith loved to start things, but man, he was a terrible fighter. Matt said he always knew when Keith was over his head because he'd hear him yell, "Matt, help!" And I remember when Amanda and I first started dating, Keith was only 15, and all he wanted to do was protect his big sister. He was always trying to fight or wrestle to prove how tough he was. Of course, I kicked his butt every time. And every time he'd tap out with his famous words, "All right, I'm done. And then one of our last matches, I caught him in a throw and I threw him, and we ended up breaking Evelyn's angel statue. She didn't know how it happened, but yeah, that's how it happened. It was with his head, but it was okay. He was fine. And not too long after that, he wasn't just my girlfriend's funny, annoying little brother. He was my brother. And don't get me wrong, he loved his sisters. He loved them all a lot. He definitely did. And Keith may not have grew up with any brothers, but he made plenty of us. Matt, Malachi, Cody, just to name a few. We've lost a brother, but man, what a brother to have. I loved him, plain and simple. He wasn't just my brother, but like he was to many. He was my porch buddy, my partner in crime, sometimes literally. The guy who I'd buy 2 large pizzas for just so we could each eat one. There's so many stories I could tell, but a few stand out. Like the time we were camping and he managed to fall in the lake in the middle of the night trying to watch a pan. Why? Because of course he did. Or the time he got arrested for being drunk in public because he called the cops on himself because they wouldn't let him back in the bar. And then, in his infinite wisdom, tried to fight a deaf guy because he wouldn't talk to him. Yeah, we can't make this up. Lastly, getting the call where he said, "Hey, not sure where I am, but I'm in a helicopter, and I think I'm in a field." And he was. Somehow he crawled in a helicopter out in the middle of the field. But that was just him. Wild, ridiculous, and absolutely one of a kind. Beyond his love for skating, he had another passion that defined him. It was riding his motorcycle. There was not much he loved more than feeling the wind in his face and letting the world blur by as he chased that perfect ride. It was his escape, his freedom, and just like everything else in his life, he rode with style, confidence, and just the right amount of recklessness. Right amount might be a stretch, but hey, we'll give it to him. Keith had this way of making even the worst situations funny. He could turn an argument into a joke, a bad day into a laugh, and a quiet night into an unforgettable adventure. He brought people together in the best way, and even though he's gone, I know he'll keep bringing us together through the stories we'll keep telling. Losing him leaves a hole that no one else could ever fill, but if there's one thing I know, it's that he wouldn't want us sitting around being sad. He would want us to laugh and tell stories and live life full throttle just as he did. So here's to Keith, our skater, our rider, our comedian, our escape artist, our friend, and our brother. I'll miss him forever, but I know you're out there somewhere riding that endless highway, pulling off some sick tricks and stirring up trouble. So rest easy, brother, and just keep the throttle open and the wheels rolling. I can't wait to sit around a fire and hear all your adventures and ridiculous stories when I see you again. If anyone else would like to share.
My name's Nate. Keith was my little buddy. I remember the first time I met him, I got this job through Express, and it was at this food bank, and hated the job. Like I was working with these older people, and it was just really lame. But one day, they asked me to come in, and I asked them who I was working with, and they're like, "Oh, Keith," and I was like, "Oh, well, I don't know this guy." They're like, "Yo, he's getting the truck ready," and I go outside, and I was so excited. It was a younger kid my age, and we got in the truck and we started talking, and I was like, "This guy's a dirtbag just like me." I was like, "We'll get along," you know. And yeah, that job was so fun. Keith made that job so fun, you know. It was just so funny. And every now and then, you know, we'd take some of the donations, get like a steak or some bratwurst, and go back to my house and drink beers. And yeah, it was a good time. And I left that job. I got into tree work, and Keith followed shortly. And I was telling Malachi, we basically grew up together in tree work. You know, we had like this brotherhood going, and we like kept each other safe and looked out for each other, and just basically became men together. You know, it was a bond I'm really glad that I got to feel in my life, because a lot of people don't get that. And I have a whole bunch of stories I could tell, but none of them are really appropriate. So, but I really loved Keith. He was a good friend of mine. And, yeah, I'm sorry this happened, but yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Now or never, huh?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bree. For those who don't know, I had the great pleasure of being the third wheel to the dynamic that is Keith and Malachi for the past 5 years. Gonna try not to cry. He told me I was a crybaby. I know that usually eulogy we speak in the past tense, but today I'm speaking directly to Keith because I know he's right here with us all. Though his physical being that we all know and love has been cremated, he's sitting amongst us all, shoulder checking someone with his elbow, saying, "I'm kind of a big deal, huh?" Beer in hand. First of all, Keith, I could kick your ass right about now. I think I speak for the majority of this room, too. Transparently, I had no intentions of getting up here and attempting to share anything because I feared no one would be able to understand me through the blubbering tears. However, I know the person I choose to share my life with is a man of minimal outward emotional expression, and having a front row view to their brotherhood and integration I had into both of their lives leaves me with no choice but to get up and make sure Keith hears today how absolutely lucky we feel to have had the opportunity to love him in this lifetime. As mentioned, Malachi and Keith shared way more than a friendship. Both are brothers that neither one of them was granted through genetics. They even had matching trucks and matching Harleys. They share the kind of bond that you love one another so much. Sometimes you have to tell them hard things they don't want to hear, and it causes you to be angry for a second, but most of the time you're busy living a life so fast you don't even realize that you're making memories that will last lifetimes beyond this one. Keith, if you're looking for Gio in the room today, he decided he didn't want to be here because he said this would be sad. That does not mean that we will let the legacy of Uncle Keith not live on. You are the poster child for Funkle, most likely because you're a giant child yourself.
He did ask me to make sure that you know he's pretty pissed about the fact that you guys can't play football in the front yard anymore, or that you won't be with us at baseball fields or games to pull the wagon with all the snacks and drinks for the team, or sneak a beer in your cup. He also reminded us about the time when you were teaching him to roast people, and he said, "I'm gonna push your mom in," with absolutely no understanding what he said to you. Remember, we all just busted up laughing because he burned you so hard without even trying. Mission accomplished, my dog. He'll absolutely know how to fend for himself if and when that time comes. Oh yeah, he didn't forget the time you told him he needs 2 phones to talk to more girls at one time. Mal and I promised to remind him that even though he can't see you, you're still here every step of the way. Did you notice that we went to Zoomies yesterday to get a fresh pair of Vans and a clean fit for your celebration? Of course, we had to do you proud and look fresh to death, or whatever you'd tell us right now. For the record, you're still the only grown man I know who had an entire wardrobe strictly from Zoomies after high school. We will miss the way we could call you up and you were literally down for anything at any given moment. Walmart trips at midnight, staying up late playing Call of Duty, sunset cruises through the buttes, randomly deciding to drop kayaks in the Sutter Bypass and coming home freezing your guys' asses off with not a single fish caught. We're especially going to miss hearing you sing songs in your emo kid screamo voice. Remember that time we went to Tahoe and you guys rode the bikes, and on the way home it started pouring rain? You guys were pissed at me for having the idea. What about that time we put the speaker under your bed and played that really scary song from Insidious, and you came busting into our room so scared? The better question is, who's gonna come save me when Mal's working out of town when my tires are flat? Or stay up all night working on the truck with him because you Ford guys love to just own giant piles of garbage? On a serious note, we are so grateful for the opportunity to share countless memories that we will hold on for the rest of our time here on this earth. The good, the bad, the ugly. You're our road dog for life. Your life has brought so many people together over the past 2 weeks. Paths that would have never crossed otherwise and are now forever bonded by the love that we share for you. I needed to admit that you were so right about Amanda and I. We are so alike, and I'm so happy you brought us together. Sam is equally someone I've come to love so much because she reminds me so much of you. She was cracking the exact same jokes you would have at your viewing yesterday. We needed that, though. We all agree on one thing. You have the most obnoxious laugh, and you can't even skate. We're all going to take a shot of Gentleman's Jack in honor of you this evening. And while you're up there waiting for us all to be together again, try to find a spot where you and Malachi can actually catch a fish and a good place to play catch with Gio. We're gonna see you on the other side, and until then, you better keep it 100% of the time. Is there anyone else that would like to share? So we have food and drinks out there if you guys. Slideshow. Oh yeah. Slideshow.
Yeah. 5:36 a.m. I was about to start my day, but she laying there across me, so I stayed anyway. Arms tied, legs numb and wrapped around my knees. Sweetest of the sunflowers, yeah, you're the sun to me. I don't recall what you were wearing on the first night we met, besides subtle clouds around you from my last cigarette. And you come from a good place with a happy family. Only bad you ever done was to see the good in me. But I've been living, waiting on the day that the good Lord willing sent you on my way. I've seen hard times, bad luck, and all that's in between. Sweetest of the sunflowers, yeah, you're the sun to me. And I remember being younger and my mother told me truth. Find someone who grows flowers in the darkest parts of you. Take heed when things get hard and don't you ever turn around. You'll find someone someday, somewhere that'll grow you to the clouds. And you walked me home that evening when I could barely walk. And you spoke to me so sweetly on the days I couldn't talk. And now I'm seeing clearly and I'm growing up so free. Sweetest of the sunflowers, yeah, you're the sun to me. And I've been living, waiting on the day that the good Lord willing sent you out my way. I've seen hard times, bad luck, all that's in between. Sweetest of the sunflowers, yeah, you're the sun to me. Sweetest of the sunflowers, yeah, you're the sun to me.
Yeah, I've got
It's perfect outside, it's like God let me dial up the weather. Got the whole crew here, I ain't seen some of them in forever. It's one of those never forget it, better stop and take it in kind of scenes. Everything's just right, yeah, except for one thing. You should be here, standing with your arm around me here, and cutting up, cracking a cold beer, saying cheers. Hey y'all, it's sure been a good year. It's one of those moments that's got your name written all over it. And you know that if I had just one wish, it'd be that you didn't have to miss this. You should be here. You'd be taking way too many pictures on your phone, showing them off to everybody that you know back home. And even some you don't, yeah, they say now you're in a better place. And I would be too if I could see your face. You should be here, standing with your arm around me here, cutting up, cracking a cold beer, saying cheers. Hey y'all, it's sure been a good year. It's one of those moments that's got your name written all over it. And you know that if I had just one wish, it'd be that you didn't have to miss this. Oh, you should be here, you'd be loving this, you'd be freaking out, you'd be smiling, yeah, I know you'd be all about what's going on right here, right now. God, I wish somehow you could be here. Oh, you should be here. Yeah, this is one of those moments that's got your name written all over it. And you know that if I had just one wish, it'd be that you didn't have to miss this. Oh, you should be here. You should be here. Can't believe that you got me in a suit and tie. I had to take a pull so I wouldn't cry. You got a line out the church door saying goodbye. Yeah, I believe them when they say you're in a better place. You had a wild side, but you had amazing grace. I know you're way off up in them clouds, but if you could still hear me right now, I hope you hit those ghost streets on two wheels. I hope your mansion in the sky's got a 10-acre field with some mud and some hubs you can lock in. Make some thunder, make 'em wonder how you got in. How'd you clear from the man upstairs? Crank it loud, hold it down till I get there. And when I do, I hope you got some new stories to tell. Till then,
Not everybody's comfortable with getting up on a microphone and sharing memories, but that's what this time ahead is for here. There's some snacks and drinks out there, and just really encourage you to hang out and share some stories. There's a memory box. There's some seeds to plant in his honor. And so just really thank you on behalf of the family. Thank you for being here to celebrate Keith. And please hang out and share some more stories and some more laughs, especially those really funny ones. Those are the good ones, right? So thank you. So please do hang out and enjoy yourselves here together.